Our clients have to decide between eating ice cream now and the long-term benefits of healthy weight loss. Motivational interviewing is the go-to technique to have this conversation with the client because it helps the client find their own motivation to ditch the ice cream and focus on long-term success. So it is particularly important for us coaches to master motivational interviewing. This video shows you 30 simple daily practices that you can use to build up your motivational interviewing skills. And if you like videos like this and want to get more tips on motivational interviewing and coaching in general, then please subscribe. So let's jump into the topic. Motivational interviewing consists of 7 main skills. Resist the rightening reflex. You probably have noticed it yourself when you're sitting with a client and they start to talk about their problems and what's not working, that you have this urge, you want to jump in and tell them, hey, do this, do that, and you don't see this problem, let me help you solve the solution. Unfortunately, this is probably the biggest error that most coaches do because it creates something that's called resistance. So when you try to persuade someone to do something and they are not really ready to make this change, then they will resist you. They find all the arguments why they shouldn't do it. So major skill that we have to manage ourselves here. Listen with empathy. Motivational interviewing is about understanding the other person. What is important to them? What are their perspectives? So listening and reflective listening is crucial to understand the other person. And this plays into the third skill, and that's understanding the client's own motivation. We have lots and lots of good reasons why eating healthy and exercising regularly is so important. But what are our clients' motivation? This is the interesting part. Why do they want to change and what are their reasons? So motivational interviewing focuses on that, and we need to pull this out and make this aware for them. Built-in discrepancy, something that coaches do all the time. They notice, hey, client, you're doing this, but you said you're going to do this. What's the story here? And not always are we reflecting that to the client. More often, these are the conversations between professionals. Oh, my client did that and did. So having a good skill in highlighting this without judgment, or maybe even bringing the client to the realization, hey, there's a discrepancy between what I say and what I do, is crucially important to have this moment of, oh, I need to change something here. Skill number 5, roll with resistance. You will notice this all the time when you have conversations about change, that the defenses of the other person build up at some point. They are moving too fast for them. They don't feel in control, or they feel like they are being pushed into one direction. So rolling with the resistance is the technique of recognizing that and knowing how to deal with the emotions of the other person. Empower the client. This really goes back to the idea, client, you are in control. You are the person that makes the choice what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And for us coaches, then it becomes more the supporting role. We give them what they need. And the last part is similar but distinct in the way that we try to highlight everything that the client already has. So often we as coaches go into a conversation with the mindset of, let's find the deficits and root out what's not working. But we lose the perspective of, hey, what does my client already have? What are all the amazing strengths and resources and past experiences that we can build on? And if you take something that a client can already do well, their confidence to change boosts immediately. There's nothing to do because, oh yeah, of course, I'm a time management ninja at work. Of course, I can use my time management ninja skills to organize my workouts around that. So how are we going to organize this video? So motivational interviewing, think about it that we practice something daily. So I will show you 30 different small things that you can do every day. These will build the 7 skills that I've talked about just a moment ago. And these skills then improve your motivational interviewing. So the idea is practice the 30 things that I will talk about. And by that, you will improve your motivational interviewing techniques. And of course, if you're better at motivational interviewing, your clients will get better results. One important point, do one thing at a time. Similar to what we are telling our clients, focus on one thing, one daily practice, and you can either choose what is the easiest for you, or when you go through the video, you might decide, oh, this is something that I really, really need to work on. Then decide that. Either way, choose one thing, either the easiest or the most effective one. And then take your time. Take maybe 1 or 2 weeks, practice it as often as you can, not just with clients. You can use motivational interviewing techniques all the time in all conversations, and then make notes. Maybe you have a 30-second review after a client conversation. What went well, what didn't went well, what I'm going to do different. And once you have practiced this one skill and you get better at it, then at some point, maybe 2 weeks later, you can choose another daily practice from this video and work on that. And then slowly over time, you build your practices that build habits, and these habits build your skills. And if you improve your overall skills, your motivation interviewing in total will improve. Resist the right-handing reflex. Think about it. There's something that you are not really sure about. Yeah, you want it, but you kind of don't want it. And then someone comes and tries to pursue you in one direction. Says, oh, this is a good reason, and these are all the bad reasons, and yada, yada, yada. You will feel attention. You don't want to be pushed. You're not sure yet. And if you feel like, I'm not sure, the other person, what does they usually do? They talk louder, or they give even more and even bolder arguments. And then oh, no, that's too fast, that's too fast. And this is what so often happens in coaching conversations. The client doesn't feel really sure about change. And when we as coaches pick up, our go-to solution is, oh, I will bring even better arguments. And if that doesn't help, we so often fall into the trap of blaming them. Oh, they're unmotivated, or they just don't get it. And what happens now then? You're labeling them, you're not putting as much effort into them, and they're getting stuck because you're pushing, they push back, they essentially plant their feet even firmer into the ground and say, no, I won't move. And the harder my coach pushes, the harder I push back. And in fact, in the motivational interviewing research, resisting this widening reflex is super critical, because if we don't manage our urge to help, to push, this is really the biggest predictor of not change for the client. So mastering this removes already a huge amount of roadblocks and problems in the motivational interviewing process. So how can we practice resisting the widening reflex? The first part is, remember it is their responsibility. It's their choice to change. I completely understand that we as coaches often have this mindset of, oh, if my client doesn't change, I'm a bad coach. If they don't get results, I will run out of business. But it's not in our control. It's in their control. And there's really nothing that we can do to make them change. And it is so important to realize. So remind yourself when you notice this urge, it's their responsibility. They have the choice and they need to make the choice. We are not parents taking care of little children. They are adults and they need to make the decision. So when you notice this urge, pause for a second and remind, oh, it's their choice, it's their choice, it's their choice. Then, when you have the feeling they're unmotivated, understand lack of motivation as an unresolved ambivalence. Ambivalence is this feeling of, I want this and I want that. Every time you're sitting in front of a bowl of ice cream, you feel this, oh, I want to dig into the ice cream, but being a little bit leaner or making healthier choices is also important to me. And this, oh, I'm not moving because I'm not sure what I really want. That is ambivalence. And from the outside, it looks, oh, my client is unmotivated. They're not taking action. So the benefit of reframing this is we have very specific tools to explore ambivalence. And I will show you a couple of daily practices how you can explore ambivalence with your clients. The third daily practice you can choose is don't fall for the bait. It's often very easy for clients to choose the easier road, to think about or to want a quick fix. So they're asking you, okay, coach, what should I do? And then, oh, I feel this urge, and now they're asking me, and suddenly I'm telling them all the reasons why I think they should change and what they should do. But here comes the twisted part. Now they can blame you. Now it was, oh, coach said, and I don't want that. And I'm not sure if coach is really the right person to say that. So don't fall for the bait when they ask you, what should I do? Instead, you can say something like, I'm not sure what is the right choice for you in your life, but here is what has worked for other clients in the past. And then you can give them a couple of ideas, and then you give it back to them. So what do you think? What would you like to try? Resisting the right-handing reflex can be difficult because there's this urge, this feeling of, oh, I want to do it. So a nice way to go about it is make it fun. So when you notice your client starts to talk about all the problems and all the difficulties, and your head starts to, oh, you should do that, and here's why, and yada, 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 try to go into play mode and think, oh, how long can I listen, ask questions, and reflect back before I give advice? Because advice, you can always give advice. But can you maybe help them explore what they're feeling, dig deeper, help them understand what's going on in their life before you tell them what to do? And the last bit here is work together. See your client as an expert on their life. Because if you have this, oh, coach tells me what to do, then they can rebel. But if two equals meet and they have a conversation, you the expert on nutrition and they the expert on their life, and you work together towards a common goal, there's no resistance anymore. There's collaboration. Listen with empathy. As we explored in the last part, having this expert role, the desire to show how much you know and to serve your client's desire for a quick fix can be very difficult because it tends to cause us to talk all the time. But as difficult as it may sound, coaching is not about the coach, it's about the client. And another part that is very difficult for listening more often is the time pressure. Maybe we have only 20 minutes Zoom calls, or maybe we have group conversations. There's not one-on-one conversations. And also, there's sometimes a 4-week, 6-week, or maybe a 12-week program, and spending listening all the time create this feeling of, oh, we are not making progress. And also, listening is simply not a skill that's practiced very often. And you can see how all these things get in the way of the client. They get in the way of helping them find what they want and how to approach it. So what can we do to listen with empathy a little bit better? First, listen to understand. The idea is when your client speaks, you listen for their perspectives, their thoughts, their values, their feelings. And you're not listening and thinking about your own response. You're not thinking about what could you say, or in any way you don't process your next step. You're trying to put yourself in their shoes. You try to imagine how it would be in their position. How do they feel? What do they think? What do they want? And if you do that, you build the foundation for the next skill, and that is understanding the client's own motivation. So without listening, everything else will fall down. So practice listening, shutting up, asking questions, and reflecting is super important. And reflections are a great way to show that you're listening and to test your understanding. And if you're interested in what reflections are and how to do reflections well, let me know. Or you can check out the video that I linked above and in the comments as well, where I talked about reflections. Skill number 3, understand the client's own motivation. Again, when we put ourselves in the expert role, it's so often that we assume, oh, the client doesn't get it, they don't understand the knowledge, or they don't have the insights. And there's also the idea of, oh, we as coaches, we learn so much. We have so many good, compelling reasons why they should do this or eat healthier, train more regularly. And the last part is that very often we look at clients in the way of, oh, what do they lack? What are their deficiencies? So we never really look at clients like, oh, they have all these strengths, all these amazing things, all these resources, all these past experiences. And all of that gets in the way of understanding the client's motivation. And you can see already, if we want them to change, we should use their reasons to change, not our reasons. Because if we uncover what is important to them, what are their future goals and their values, they will be so much more likely to take action and do what they want, instead of when we give them reasons, because they might not resonate with them at all. So how can we practice understanding the client's own motivation? For example, you can ask questions about their future goals and personal values, like, what is important to you? Or what would you like your life to be in 5 years? And if you want a whole set of questions for, if you want to get a whole set of questions you can ask, let me know in the comments below and I'm happy to share a resource with you. You can explore the pros and cons of change. So something that I talked in a previous video that I will link above and also in the comments are the 4 crazy questions that explore the upsides and downsides of change. So what is good about not changing? What is bad about changing? What are the cons of change? And what is good about changing? And what is bad about not changing? What are the pros of change? And if you listen closely, the skill that we talked about previously, you understand and hear, oh, I don't want this and I want more of that. And if you can pull all these little bits out of the conversation and then say, oh, here, if you skip the ice cream every morning, you will be able to lose weight, you will be fitter in 5 years, you can play with your grandchildren, or you will look amazing at the beach when you play beach volleyball. This is the part where motivation interviewing gets super interesting, when you are able to recognize their reasons to change. And when you recognize their change talk, when they suddenly talk about what they want to change, you pick that up and give it back to them. Oh, how could that look like? So recognizing change talk, super critical, that you understand and hear every type of speech that favors the client's movement to change. And I've linked a video where I talk about change talk, how to recognize it and how to respond, both above and also in the comments below. Another way to understand the client's own motivation is to use an importance ruler. So they might come to you and say, okay, I want to lose weight and I want to gain muscle and I want to be fitter and I want to run a marathon. And then you can ask, okay, on a scale from 0 to 10, how important is losing weight for you? And a follow-up question then is, okay, why are you at 7 and not 0? And here's the interesting part. Now they start to talk about all the reasons why losing weight is important to them. And the next part that you can ask is, what would it take for you to get to an 8? And then they start to say, oh yeah, I need to organize my time a little bit better, or I need a recipe on how to cook lean protein. And suddenly with 3 simple questions, you almost have solved all their problems. You know what is important to them. You know what they want, and you connect the different parts, what they want with the specific behaviors. And they also tell you, okay, what is getting in the way? And last but not least, strengthen the commitment. So very often clients say something like, yeah, I want to go to bed earlier and sleep a little bit better because having the energy is super important. But there's also this business thing that I need to work on, and I only have time in the evening. And then you have sustained talk, why they won't go to bed earlier, and reasons why they want to go to bed earlier. So strengthen the commitment by strategically reflecting this part is critical, because they said they want it, and now you say it back to them. Now they have listened to it as well, and they respond, and suddenly you have already 3 layers of commitment. And if you want to see a video on how to reflect properly and how to increase the commitment, check out the video that I've linked above and also in the comments below. Next skill, build discrepancy. So what are the reasons why this is something we need to practice? For one thing, building discrepancy is something that is practiced rarely. You often see this maybe in conversations between coaches, and I certainly see it all the time in the Facebook groups that I manage, that I see a post like, oh, my client says this, and that, and they do this, and that, and there's this gap between what they want and what they do. What should I do? And my first question always is, have you reflected that back to them? Have you asked them, hey, I noticed you're saying this and you're doing that. What's the story? And very rarely coaches do that. They complain about it, but never bring this to the attention. And this is the next part why building discrepancy is so important. Only when our clients notice that what they want and what they do are in dissonance, then they feel the painful negative consequences of their behaviors. So if we don't connect what they do with what they want, what they're not doing, then they may never really see, oh yeah, there's a disconnection here. So how can we practice that building discrepancy? The first part I already talked about, it's the compare and contrast. So highlight the difference between what they want, so their goals, losing weight, their values, being a role model for their children, priorities, and what they're doing, like eating ice cream all the time, not working out hard enough. And you can use phrases like, okay, if you continue with eating ice cream all the time, then what happens? But if you quit eating ice cream all the time, then what happens? And as I mentioned on the previous slide, what is the story is such a critical question. So tell me the reasons why you're saying you're going to train 3 times a week, but then I see that you're not training 3 times a week. What's the story here? What's going on? And also, and that is critical, is separate the behavior and the person. It's so easy that, oh, you're this lazy person. You're lazy, you're unmotivated, you lack the insights. It's super easy that something small will be generalized. But imagine somebody says you're unmotivated and you're never committed. That doesn't feel good. So separate their actions from the person and try to talk about the thing. So you could say something like, oh, I noticed there's a lack of consistency with the exercise routine, or there's a lack of intensity when you train. But you said training hard is very important. So how can we explain this or understand this? Can you help me? And a very nice approach that is called the Colombo approach in motivational interviewing is you're not highlighting that or reflecting that to the client, but you're using a series of unassuming questions and reflections to get the client realize that themselves. So you see something, you see a dissonance between eating ice cream and wanting to lose weight, but then you ask some critical and thoughtful strategic questions so they realize, oh, yeah, I'm skipping breakfast because I want to lose weight, but skipping breakfast in the morning leads to stuffing my face with ice cream in the evening. So maybe intermittent fasting is not the right approach for me. Rolling with resistance, the next part of the motivational interviewing skills that we can improve. So one of the reasons why clients are not changing is because coaches handle their resistance very poorly. So you may have overstepped unintentionally because you're passionate about nutrition and try to persuade them, oh, train 3 times a week because X, Y, and Z. And they feel, coach, that was too much. And they're pulling back. So instead of realizing that and responding skillfully, you double down and you are more aggressive, you're louder, you're using more and more arguments. And they are more and more resistant. You can see how even well-intentioned, well-informed coaches can cause the client to not change. So we really need to understand how to deal with the resistance. And overcoming resistance is this idea of, okay, there's a challenge and I overcome it. And this is very often in our personal pursuits and in professional and personal development a good idea. But if you're trying to work with someone and they are resisting you and your solution is, oh, I just will put more effort into it, you can see how this won't work. And the last part is that many coaches don't see resistance as a way to learn about clients. They see it as something to overcome, as a roadblock, but they never pause for a second and see, maybe my client has a different perspective here. Maybe they want to do something else. So the reframe of resistance being something that informs me instead of something that I need to overcome is one of the reasons why Motivational interviewing may fall short when you're practicing it than what it could do. So what can we do? How can we practice rolling with resistance? The first part is, of course, recognize the presence of resistance. Learn how resistance looks like and sounds like, so you effectively can use strategies to manage it. And if you want to learn how resistance looks and sounds like, check out the video above, and I will link it in the comments and in the description as well, so you have a good idea of when a client is resistant. When you notice resistance, then one of the most important things that you can do is take a step back and let them realize, hey, you're in control. You're making the decision. It's not my journey, it's your journey. And then also allow to change the direction, change the pace, or change the topic. Always remember, resistance comes when two people resist each other. If you remove your resistance, say, hey, you're awesome, I don't want you to change, that allows them to change. And very important here as well to practice is the empathy. So resistance is a normal part of change. You very rarely will see clients that are all in, no worries, no difficult feelings, no competing commitments around change. So it will always be there. And if you have ambivalence, that is normal. And if you put tension on it, you create resistance, that's also normal. Let the client know, hey, that you right now don't feel 100% comfortable with change. It's cool with me. We go in your pace, with your pace. You are in control, and you let me know how you want to approach it. And the beautiful part here as well is it's now on them as well. So you don't need to worry about all the time. Are they doing it? Are they not doing it? Yada yada. You give them the power back. Talking about power and the empowerment of our clients. Very often coaches assume that the situation the client is in is not their responsibility. And if we assume it's not their responsibility, we take away first the responsibility from the client, but also their power. If they have no say in the current situation, it also means they won't have any say in the future. And the last thing that you want is the client to feel powerless. So this creates this idea of, oh, it's all on me. The coach suddenly have to find all the answers, all the solutions, all the explanations, and they completely miss one of the greatest resources in the conversation, and that's the client. So if we strengthen the resources, if we use this, the strengths and past experiences from our client, they feel power, they feel in control, and they find these little areas where they can take action. And the last part, if we don't empower our clients, it strengthens the idea of, oh, I need a quick fix because I can't really work on something difficult. How can we empower our clients? First, we connect the why with the action. We listened, we understood their own motivation, we understand what they are want to do, and now we connect everything. So a nice way to do that is to do a summary, and what a summary is I explained here in the video. And you do a summary of, oh, you want to sleep better, you want to have more energy, you want to be more patient with a partner. So going to bed a little bit earlier could be the way, or is the way for you to realize these changes. And here's the important part. All these reasons that I mentioned are their reasons. They set This is important to them. And now you give them a specific action how they can reach this. Even better, and we will talk about this with the next skill, is if they come up with the action. Another part is the confidence ruler to empower our clients. So they may want to change, but they feel like, I am not really able to do that. So you can ask a question like, on a scale from 0 to 10, how confident are you to put your phone with the screen down before you go to bed? Okay. And why are you 7 and not a 0? And now they're telling you all the reasons why they can do it. And the last part is then, okay, what would it take for you to get to an 8 or a 9? And then they also already tell you all the steps they need to realize that. So if you're pressed for time, these confidence rulers can be incredibly powerful to go quickly to the crucial conversation points. And the last part is, if we use affirmations, we boost our clients' confidence, because we are constantly giving them evidence about their strengths. We show how they can use their strengths, and we explore how their past successes can be used in the new situation. For example, you very often will find people that know how to lose weight. The issue is more often they are not able to maintain. So if you then, hey, tell me about all the diets that you did, what worked well there, what do you like, then you construct an approach that will work because they've practiced it so many times. And the interesting part is then, okay, how can I tweak this that then it moves into a maintenance that they can actually maintain? Surprise. See, instead of finding all the reasons why they're not doing it or what they can't do, you focus on what they can do and utilize it. And the client will feel like an absolute rock star because they have all these resources, all these strengths, all the past successes they can build on. We get in the way of our clients' self-efficacy because we think our clients are unmotivated. So when we think they lack motivation and they won't be able to change, then we handle that accordingly. And they feel like, oh, there's no hope. So the client may have tried many times and maybe you are their last hope. But if you also think, oh, this is the lost case, then how are they supposed to have hope? And the last part is, we focus on fixing them. So they come to us and they feel small and cringed and judged because everything is a deficiency and they are lacking all this stuff. And you can see how someone who tries to change and they're coaching, they're unmotivated, they have no hope, and then also they hear all the things that they don't have. That's not a great situation to change. So how can we support them better? Something that I've used with great success with my clients is building strength lists, resource lists, and past successes lists. So these are lists, ongoing lists that you change and build up over time, and they just highlight all the strengths and all the resources and all the past successes that the client have. And imagine someone comes to you, they don't feel super sure, and they leave the conversation with you with 3 pages full of strengths and resources and past successes, and they already have their mind full of, oh, I can use that and this and with that, and I can here and do that. They will start to solve their own problems, and all that you did is build a list of the resources that they already have. The next part is collaborate on next actions. So very, very often coaches have the idea of, oh, I have to find the solution. I have to find the next action. I need to know what to do. But in this case, we discard all the information, all the experiences, all the knowledge that our clients have. So instead of feeling like I have to lead, think about guiding them. This is a collaboration, and you move together towards a common goal. What's next? It plays into the collaboration part. What changes were you thinking about making? Give them ownership of the change process. So instead of coming up with things they should do, ask them what they want to do. And here you can see how and why motivational interviewing is so effective. You listen to them, you remove all barriers like resistance, you understand what is important to them, and what is important to them is now connected with what they want to do. And suddenly you remove yourself essentially from the whole conversation, from the whole process, and you're just making sure they're moving along and they get the input that they need to progress through thinking about change to taking action. And something that's also very important here is believe and give hope. If you believe in your client's ability to change, and you think there's always hope and there's always something that they can do to bring about change, this will reflect and radiate in so many different ways. And sometimes it's the most important part that the client needs, that coach believes in them. And if coach believes, I can believe and I can do something, and suddenly this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of, oh, I believed I can do it, I did it, and now I have proven that I was right. So here are a couple more videos that you can check out. An introduction to motivational interviewing. Here's a demo of how it looks like together with a full breakdown. And I also shared a couple of further videos how you can level up your coaching and the 4 steps every motivation interviewing conversation goes through. So let me know in the comments below what daily practice you would choose.